Metrically is an aggregated dashboard that helps you better manage your business through metrics. In this tutorial, we will show you how to set up our database connector with your own MySQL database to track your internal metrics. So if you have an existing MySQL database with data related to your business, like user registrations or posts on your blog or news site, you can easily track that data in Metrically. To get started, we will go to developer.metrically.com and select the database connector link. Here you can see an overview of the database connector and some basic installation instructions. You can download the database connector using the link at the top of the installation instructions entitled DB Connector Archive. Once downloaded, we will need to unzip this archive and move it to our server, where we will have access to our MySQL database. In our case, we will be installing it on a blog site running WordPress. We will choose the installation directory so that the new files can be accessed via the web at our URL /metrically. We will also need to make sure the files are readable by our web server and that the metrics.xml file is writable. You may also want to review the config.php file, which keeps the settings for our database connector. For most installations, you will not need to change any of the default settings, but do pay attention to the URL depth setting. We installed our connector at /metrically, a single folder from the base URL. But if you install the connector at a deeper location, say /admin/metrically, you would need to set the URL depth to 2. Now our connector should be completely installed and we can create a connection for metrically.com. From the settings page, we will find the database connector and select Add Connection. For the settings, the endpoint URL is the web address for the database connector we just installed. In our case, just our URL /metrically. In most cases, if you install the connector on the same machine as your database, you will just enter localhost as the database host. But if your database is running on a different machine, you would enter that machine's address in here. The database name is the name of the database where we will find our data. And username and password is for your database as well. This user will need to have access to read the aforementioned database. And if you're using snapshot type metrics, it will also need to be able to create and write to a Metrically data database. Click Save, and Metrically will test the connection to your database. Now that we've connected to our database, we'll create our first metric by selecting Configure and then Add Metric. In this example, let's track the number of blog posts made each day to our blog. At the top of the new metric screen, we'll enter some basic information: the name of the metric, a unique ID for the metric, a short description, the type of data, and a category under which the metric will be listed in our dropdowns. In addition, we will specify where Metrically will find the values for this metric. Metrically will show us the basic layout of our database, and we just need to select the table and value for this field. In our case, that is WP Posts and ID. Our value type is actual, but you can also select aggregate for data that should be totaled, or snapshot for data that doesn't have a date attached to it. In that case, Metrically will capture the value each night and store it in your Metrically data database we mentioned previously. Then our value calculation is count, because we want to count the number of unique posts for each day. We will also need to specify the date field, which for us is the post date. Lastly, in this example, we only want to count published posts, so we will add a condition to check that the post status is published. Click Save, and we've created our first custom metric using the database connector. Now let's see this metric in action. Going to our blank dashboard, we add a new graph, and we will see the posts metric under our blog category. Select that value, and just like that, we can see the number of posts to our blog per day. But let's say we also wanted to see who is making each post each day. Let's go back to the configure screen, and we're going to add a dimension for the post author. That will allow us to create subtotals and filters on posts by author. Now on the configure screen, let's select Add Dimension. We will fill our basic information across the top, the dimension name, a unique ID, and a description. And for value type, we will choose discrete, because there is a limited number of authors we will be tracking. This is the case for most dimensions, but if you are tracking an indeterminate dimension like price, you would select continuous. For dimension type, we will choose actual because we don't want to store the value of this dimension. Again, this is the correct choice for most dimensions, but if you're using snapshot metrics and we wanted to capture dimension value in time, we would use snapshot here. Now we choose the dimensions value field. In our case, that is the WP users table, where we will use the display name and choose a key for this table, which is our ID field. The key is important because that is how we will match this dimension with other metrics using the table link, which we will show you now. If a dimension is in a different table than our metric, like the one we just created, we will need to connect the two so Metrically knows that this new dimension works with our metric. Using a table link is the most efficient way of doing this because it allows us to link all metrics in one table to all dimensions in another table. But you could also set up specific dimension links on a metric. Let's create our table link now so we can connect our new dimension with the post metric. To do this, we select Add Table Link, give the table link an ID, and then select a matching key from each table. For us, that is post author in the WP post table and user's ID in the WP users table. Now if we return to the dashboard screen, we can see our new dimension in action. Selecting the post metric we added previously, let's select subtotals by author, top 5, and let's save this graph. Now we can see how many posts our top 5 authors have made for this period. This concludes our database connector setup tutorial. Please see our other tutorials to learn more about Metrically features. And if you have other questions, don't hesitate to contact us via email at support@metrically.com. Thank you.